Hey folks, this is Barbour's Auto Help here. Today I got a '01 Ford Escape V6, and they're complaining of a clunking noise when they go over bumps. But first thing I noticed was the amount of play that this tire has here. Usually that's caused by outer tie rod ends or inner tie rod ends. In this case, it's a bushing on the lower control arm. So I'm going to take you down there and show you what I found on that. Yeah, just take a look at that front bushing right there whenever I wiggle the tire. So yeah, that thing's pretty well worn out. We're going to go ahead and replace the control arm to correct the problem. So folks, before we even get into it, before we even jack the vehicle up, get it off the ground, we're going to measure the ride height. And the way we do that is first take the hubcap off. And you see this right here, this is your axle shaft, and we're going to measure from the center of your axle shaft there to the outside edge of your fender, and that's going to be your ride height. So directly from the center of that, directly up from the axle there, and we got roughly 18 and a half, just a little over 18 and a half. So write that down somewhere before you take this apart. Alright, so we get it all jacked up. We're going to go ahead and take our tire off and then get started. We're going to take our pinch bolt out. That's this right here. And that nut that you're looking at right there is 14 millimeters. And then on the other side, on the bolt head, it's 15 millimeters. So you're going to hold the other side with a wrench while you're loosening that side. That way it doesn't just freewheel on you. And just pull it on out. You may have to tap it out. There we go. I'll take the outer tie rod end loose from the steering knuckle. That way I can swivel the knuckle back and forth to maneuver that lower ball joint out. And when you're going back in with this cotter pin, get you a new one. This nut here is 19 millimeter. Take it loose. Now, in order to get this outer tie rod end out, you're going to have to beat it out going up like that. But you're going to use this nut to do that, and you're going to flip the nut around. That way you don't mess up these the castle ends here. And you want to wind it up until it's just flush with that tit right there. And once that's flush, you just take your hammer and just like that. And take the castle nut off the rest of the way. Now you can swivel your spindle wherever you need to swivel it. You're probably going to find that that lower ball joint doesn't necessarily want to come out on its own. You kind of pry down on that lower control arm and that's kind of stuck, so you could pry bar up under here too. Pry up on it. Just keep working with it. Don't get discouraged. You'll get it out. Hey, penetrating oil works too if you have to. Squirt a little bit up in there. Let it soak for a little bit and that'll help you. Also, it wouldn't hurt to go ahead and spray your other bolts. Guys, I think we got some progress going on here. We're going to go from the back side this time. Pry down on that lower control arm. And to the front. Here, we're free. Alright, now that we got our ball joint out, let's go ahead and remove this bolt here on the front of the control arm. It's got a 15 millimeter head on it. Set that off to the side. That's loose. Now we're going to move to our back bolt back there. Alrighty folks, so I'm going to pause here for a little safety moment. Safety's quite important. You're going to be up underneath this vehicle. Make sure that you have the vehicle lifted correctly. Make sure you have it supported correctly. Unfortunately, I don't have that information available yet on my channel. So if you're not sure how to do that, make sure you know how to do it. Okay. I'd hate for a vehicle to fall on somebody. You need to know how to do that, definitely. Also, wear you some safety glasses. Dirt and stuff does fly around when you're loosening bolts up underneath the vehicle, so protect your eyes. Your eyes are very important. And you can see I got my vehicle supported to the hilt here. I got 2 jack stands up underneath it, one on the unibody, one on the subframe. I got my jack there. I've got the back tire chopped up, parking brakes engaged, so this vehicle is not going to go anywhere. Just be careful. That being said, do this repair at your own risk, and please, please, please be careful. Now, before we take this bolt out right here, please note that I have a jack stand up underneath the subframe that's supporting the subframe to the body. This bolt goes through this bushing here into the actual frame, and it holds the subframe to the unibody. So this needs to be supported. All right, we're going to take this bolt out here. Once all your bolts are out, go ahead and pull it on out, just like so. Alright, so this is what the problem was. That bushing is just totally shot. It's coming out, and the one in the back ain't looking so healthy either. It's busted too, so that was causing a lot of play in that steering. Here's the new one. See, it's nice and all joined to the metal, so we'll go ahead and pop this bad boy in. Alright, so I'm going to start by putting the back end in first. Try to get it on there like that. You can see I can swing it towards the front now. I don't have anything bolted up yet, of course, you can see that. Let me move the spindle out of the way here. Don't pull out too far on the spindle because you can disjoint the inner CV axle. Alright, front end there. Let's go ahead and put our front bolt in. Let's get the thread started on it. Don't tighten it up, I mean. Move back here to the back. Slightly tap it in. Something that helps me out tremendously with maneuvering the bolts so that they line up with the threads. The more you pull up on this, the more that the bolt holes line up. So if you have to move up on this some, you can see back there that every time I do that, that bushing adjusts a little bit. So you got to kind of play with it to get it in. I found that putting a jack up underneath the lower control arm right there helps greatly in getting this lower control arm lined up and these bolt holes lined up. So now that I got that, we'll continue to fight our bolt. There we go. Not too hard on that, you'll ruin the threads. You gotta get the right angle on the dangle there. See what I'm doing? See what I'm doing? I'm just taking the pry bar on the top portion of that shaft of that bushing there, and I'm shoving it that way. That way that bolt hole lines up. Hopefully you don't have this problem. Alright, the bolt started. We're not going to tighten them up all the way. We're just going to get them sort of really loosely snug. There we go. Just loosely snug. Get this one snugged up a little bit there too. Alright, now we're going to put our ball joint back into the hole there on the bottom of the spindle. Just pry down on your lower control arm like so. Try to line this thing up a little bit here. There we go. and thread the eye of the needle. Move it into place there. Just tap it in a little bit with your hammer here. Don't hit the ball joint. Hit the lower control arm right here. Not real hard. Take a new pinch bolt and nut. Put it through there. And tighten it down to your specification in your repair manual. Take a torque wrench to it. Okay, now this is the part where we're going to need that measurement that you took earlier. We're going to jack the lower control arm up to what the ride height was before. And take note, these two bolts that hold the inside of the control arm on are still loose, and we're going to tighten them up after we get it to the correct ride height. Now, while you're doing this, keep an eye on your jack stands. Make sure that at no point does the vehicle come off of those jack stands. If the vehicle starts to come off of those jack stands, go ahead and stop what you're doing and do it a different way. Probably what you'll have to do is put the tire back on and lower the vehicle off the jack stands and let the vehicle rest on the wheel, and then tighten up the two bolts inside there to the correct specification. Let's try to do this. Alright guys, I'm going to break in right here. You're about to witness me do exactly what I'm telling you not to do. This is an older video and I had to redo it just so that there's no misunderstanding about this. But if you notice the front jack stand, here in just a minute, you're going to see that I've got the top of the jack stand blurred out because the vehicle actually came off of the front jack stand. It didn't come off the back one, but it came off the front one. And I think part of that reason was because I had the vehicle lifted up altogether too much, and it kind of threw the weight off a little bit, so the vehicle wanted to come off that jack stand there. I couldn't really make the video any other way so that I could show you guys how to do this and have all the room to work with like I did, so I went ahead and did it. But it's not okay to let your vehicle rise up off the jack stands like you're about to see happen here in just a second. So be careful with that. Don't do that. That's not okay. That jack is not stable enough underneath that lower control arm to keep your vehicle properly supported. So be careful, guys. We're watching our jack stands. Let's see where we're at right here. Yeah, we're at about 20. We got a little bit more to go. Where we were at before. So we can go ahead and tighten up the bolts. Folks, if you're wondering why you have to adjust for ride height, this bushing here, whenever it's bolted into specification, is fixed to the subframe, and that rubber is fixed to this bushing. And when the vehicle goes over a bump, this control arm goes up and down like that. So when that happens, the rubber inside that bushing flexes back and forth like that. So if you have it all the way down like this, you bolt it up and it's nice and tight, and you go to set the tire down, and all of a sudden that bushing's flexed that much, then all of a sudden when you hit a bump, the bushing's flexed that much, and then it breaks. So that's why we do that. Tighten up your front bolt, correct specification. And go ahead and tighten up your rear bolt to the correct specification. Alright, once you got that taken care of, you're pretty much home free. Just got to put your outer tie rod end back on and torque down your castle nut to the correct specification. Of course, put your cotter pin through there, and then put your wheel back on. and you should be good to go apart from having an alignment done. You will have to have an alignment after this. Well, that's it for this video, guys. I sincerely hope that it was a help to somebody. If you liked it, give the video a like. Please subscribe to my channel, all that good stuff. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. I'll be happy to get back to you. Thanks.